Morning, Linda. I don't know if you can hear me yet. Can you hear me? I don't know. I don't know if I'm being heard yet. Morning. I don't know whether you heard me there, Linda, earlier. Hiya, Jen, you alright? I'm just setting up. I've got some new gear. Can you see that? I've got a mic. I've got this contraption here which allows me to move the camera anywhere over the screen so that you can get close up like that. So you can get really close up. So I've just been doing things, playing. I've even got stuff. I've been really playing. I bought stuff to make our house lights come on when things happen. Unfortunately, last night they all came on in the middle of the night, near enough, all over the house. So Joan laughed, but she wasn't that. Anyway, I will get sorted. But right, so we're going to get on with Bamborough. We're going to get on with Bamborough. My problem is I'm keep having to look over to your comments to see what you're saying at the same time. And working like that. So I keep having to turn it back. But once I get started, we'll be on the main view anyway. So I've mixed my paints. So my paints are ready. Like I said, I've got yellow ochre, because I'm just dealing with Bamborough, the castle. I might get down to the boat, I don't know. Got yellow ochre, burnt sienna, blue just for some of the dunes, white, and I put some black out there because we might need some. And I've just lightly sprayed them with a bit of water so they just stay sort of delicate and not dry up too fast. So if we're going to, I mean, you can't really go out. It's horrible out there. Absolutely horrible weather. So I'm going to start, and I think my voice is right. And I'm going to put on the other one. So from now on, we'll be on this camera here. So we're going to be on this camera here, so I can do the close-up. And I'll try and keep an eye on the comments. At this stage, so I can see what you're saying. If you've got any questions, just ask, got any questions, just ask, and I'll keep an eye on the comments. So I've got me my palette there, and I've just shoved up in the top corner the palette so you can have a look at that as well. So I'm going to carry on with this. So I'm going to deal with this area here, and then along here, and I'll get all this done today. Might get on with the beach, and then boats and dogs. So we'll start with that. So like I say, I've mixed, I call it a soup. So I've sprayed the water in the middle, and I make like a soup. I'll just switch it back onto that for the moment, and I'll use a bigger brush just to show you what I'm mixing. So I sort of get an area in the middle. That soup's just disintegrating there. Get an area off to the side, a little bit of white into it, a little bit of yellow ochre in round the edges, a bit of burnt sienna near enough, a little bit of black just into there. I didn't put any yellow out. I don't think I'll need any yellow. And then, like I say, I make this sort of soup, and I can just keep dipping into it and adding more white or more burnt sienna as I go on. So I've used a bigger brush there just to mix it up. I'm just going to use a fine brush for the actual picture. So I've got the picture here that they sent me. So I'm going to work my way down here and get them. So basically we need a bit of black, maybe a bit of burnt sienna into it, so it's not, I don't want it to be too black. So I've got a little bit of black in there with a bit of burnt sienna in. This is a glass palette, by the way. This palette's made of glass, so I can actually get a blade and scrape it clean. Right, I've got the finest brush I've got here, not the fine ones I use for watercolour. But like I say, this wants to be just in the background. So I'm going to just work my way down, adding little bits of sharpness here and there. That sort of steps down a bit and then goes in. And then you've got just very finely, don't make, I'm not using pure black because it would jump out of the picture. So I'm just using this just to create these sort of little slits for windows, really. That's all they are. Down there like that. So you're just building that area up, and like I said, just making a soup. And then we just need, I need a little bit of sense of light into there, just into there, because just got a bit of tissue, because there's castellations there which I can't sort of see. So I'm just using a little bit of wet yellow ochre and some white mixed in with it. And I'm just going to go across the top here and put these little bits of castellation. If they're too bright, I'll just tone them down. I think that's all right. So you have like 3 in there, and you see the darker part of that edge basically because it's up against the sky. Here you've got a building behind it, so you don't see the darker side. But what you want to see just in there is just that sense of light going around the corner in that castellation. I'll leave that. If it's too bright, I'll tone it down. So I'm just picking out little senses of light. So we've got that there. Now just down the edge of these buttresses here, just go in with the same light and just lighten the top up a little bit. It's like coming out at a slight angle, and then just go down the right hand side and just drag down that sense of light. So you're fetching them pillars out a little bit. And now you've got windows. Now what I would do is put the windows in light, put this 1, 2, 3, 4, put these in light, and then just go over them and darken the edges down a bit. So you've got, wait a second, you've got one there, one like that. you've got a little one that's actually looks as though it's on the edge of that buttress. You've got a little one just in there, and then you have two in the middle gap. Just put them in light because I don't want to put them in black. Morning, Janet, you're right. I'm just going to put them in light, and then I'm going to darken part edges off so they're neither black nor light. So just dulling them down. And then there's sort of a longish one here, like arched windows. So there's a longish one there. There's just one there. They seem to be higgledy-piggledy. So there's just one there, the same height as that one. And then there's a one there. And up above you have some little ones just in there. 1, 2, 3 smaller ones. So you've got 3 smaller ones, just mixing the paint, and then you've got some bigger ones just down here. It's all about distance. So you're not trying to paint this in high. If the castle was really the focus point, then I probably would. Just need a little bit of light. There's a little bit of light goes across the top of that edge there, around the corner, and just a touch into there. Just pull that down. Yeah, I mean, if you wanted to do a highly detailed one, this is meant to be in the background. It's not meant to be the main focus. So with that light still now, I'm just going to touch in slightly to the bottom. I'll just get a bit more brighter light. I'm just going to touch into the bottom of them window frames there. So you're just catching the light a bit at the bottom. And then you've got the same sort of effect over here. It's hard to tell really how many windows there are at this distance. Just a few little light bits to suggest some lighter stones here and there. Light bit across that top edge. Once I start, I end up just jumping from side to side. Just where I see it might need a little bit of light. If I could paint on my brush and I think it needs a bit of light, I'd do that. Right, so we want to darken. What you've actually got, I'll just get a little bit of yellow ochre in the dark, because what you've actually got is you've got levels across here. So across there, just needs to be a bit darker. Bit more burnt sienna in. I don't want them to be jumping out, but you've just got to suggest the ledge, so just across there. Just the sense of a ledge just below the windows. It's as though the wall is sort of stepping out. The actual wall is just on the edges and stepping out. Here and there like that. Right, and put some dark into these windows now so they're not too bright. So I'm going to use the black in there, but I'm mixing it with a bit of white so that it's greyed. I don't want it to be bright black. And what I'm going to do is go over the right hand side arch. Create an arch at the top. Come down the side. And I'm going to just go back in a second and tone them down. A bit more dark in the tops of them and the tops of them. And like I said, there's some little ones just at the top. Can you hear me all right? Because I've got this new microphone on me. I presume you can hear me. Right, so going in, what you want to do is just suggest a little bit, pull out from the black and just sort of dull slightly into it. Don't paint it out the light, just drag little bits with your brush with a little bit of grey on, just dab a few little bits into there. So you're just suggesting them. Jen, sounds good, thank you. It's I mean, it's a good mic. It's a good mic. I bought all this gear. I love this gear. Right, so I think that's all right. We just need to suggest some darks down here. You don't want that. You don't want that to be bouncing up. You don't want massive dark windows in there. In fact, I'm just going to, while I see it, just take that dark out. There, we're there. And just suggest it's going around the corner, but not so dark onto it. That's fine. So what we're going to do now is put some of the same features down here. So you probably need a bit more black into the mix because it is going around the corner in shadow. So you've got buttresses like this, but you can't really see them, and you've got some windows. So all you need to do is just suggest them. There's a window there like that, a longish one, and then there's just a suggestion of darker lines for buttresses sticking out. And a couple of little the windows have to be just a touch because they're going away from you, they're turning away, so you're not trying to paint them in really dark. Now there's a separation just between this building and that one, so put a bit of black into there. I mean, I'm saying black, it's got a little bit of burnt sienna in. And then go back to your burnt sienna with your black so it's not too strong, and just start adding a sense of shadows onto the edges of turrets as they're going away. There's a little line in just across there, like that, which carries on across there, which carries on going right over to that side, and then it drops down and there's another one just there. I just keep checking the laptop to make sure that you're all still awake. Once you're awake, don't want you to sleep. Right, between that tower there and that one, there's a gap of shadow in. So I'm just going to get, I don't want it to be too black. I'm getting a bit of burnt sienna, a bit of yellow ochre, and I'm just going to darken down in there a little bit. Not heavy. I don't want it to be jumping out. It wants to be a bit darker than not heavy. That's better. So it's like a shadow, just a little sense of a gap between that and that. And then you can go back to your burnt sienna black and start introducing windows, etc. There's some down there. There's one or two doors in down, a bit more black into that mix. One or two doors down into here. A sense of shadow off this across here. And then you've got windows. You've got two little ones just there, very close together. You've got a little one just down there. You've got a little one in the side, round the side, down there. A little one in there. They're all on about the same level. One down there. And then you've got a biggish one just there. And a couple of smaller ones just there. I'm putting them in dark, and then I'm going to actually put some light into parts of them so they're not jumping right out. And then you've got that turret there. There's no windows in here, but there's just a slight separation of that tower. All I'm doing is going off the photograph that you sent me, really. And then it looks like some steps down here. It looks like some angular steps. So I'm just putting them in with a bit of dark. And then I'm just going to come in with some light into that area there. So just get my brush clean and just get some light. Same again, don't use just white, use a bit of yellow ochre and white in your sort of soup. It's just like a soup here. I've got a soup on of lights and darks, and I can just keep dragging from them and mixing darker, lighter, even lighter still. So that's how I'm doing it. So a little bit of white paint and yellow ochre, not bright white. You just want to be able to suggest a bit of light. When you look at these, when you look from this, there's white brickwork around these windows. It looks as though the light are just round the edges. Like that. It looks like a whiter bit of stone just round the edges, especially these here. So just lighten it up. Where are we at? And that one has quite a biggish piece of light into there, and then this one round here into there. So just a little touch of light, just to add something to it. Now the steps use the same colouring. The steps are coming down. I've never noticed steps before. I've never done a painting so close up of this angle. So the steps look as though they're coming down at an angle like that from this sort of wall up here. And then I'm just going to lighten this top of this wall here, just with the same colouring I've been using, just the white and the yellow ochre. And then what you've got here is a turret coming down like a towered edge. So you've got the three castellations, and then you actually have a side of a turreted building which has a sort of a step across there and a width like that. So I'm not putting it in bright white, I'm just getting it in. I'll touch in for the area. So that's just coming across there, and behind there in the shadows you've got a sense of the windows farther down. And then along the bottom of here you've got a white top, and then you've got a light top, bit brighter still. Just here, this biggish tower, and it's lower down there. You can put a little bit of light on, just on the top of that, and you can put a little sense of light down the edges, just to lighten it up a little bit. And then this one here it's lower than these, it's not as high as these. Goes right across like that, and it wants to go across till it's about level with that bit up to there like that, and then another light line just there which you can emphasize underneath. So you've got that into there. Then underneath that there's three windows. Put them in light to show where they're going to be, like that. There's three. I'm just putting it in as one sort of blob, and then you've got some fine sort of sense of castellations just there. And then you've got this bit here. Now this bit here is sort of like the main door. The main door is off that. The main sort of entrance door is off that, just there. So but you've got a tower here, like a low tower, just in front of it, like a guard tower, I would think. So there's a light line across the top for that into there. Lighten up the right hand side because it wants to be prominent away from that wall there. So lighten that area up so it stands away from that. In fact, you can add a little bit more white still and just get it really light at that side. That's better, just a bit more white into there. And then you're coming down with this. I'm just looking at the picture and establishing where it's at. Coming down with this, that one's just a bit broader. That is the sort of that there is the tower, that is like the support of this. It's like a butt as it comes down there, sort of steps out a bit and comes in there, like that. I'll put the doorway in, and that way you can see where I'm coming from. I'll just put the doorway in with a bit of black and burnt sienna. And this is the doorway. Now, this is like the gated entrance. Put it dark in the top, but don't darken it all the way down, because you don't want it to be just a black area standing out. And then them windows that were in there, just a slight touch. 1, 2, 3. A little bit more yellow ochre in, because I don't want it as black. And then there's just across here, there's some little section. What it is, and I'll lay your odds on, is that has a hole underneath it so people can drop hot oil down there. So I think that bit sticks out from just above the doorway, so they can drop oil on them. Right, just a little ledge around that doorway, just a little touch of a ledge coming down. Darken this side of this tower that's guarding it. Darken that down. Drag an edge across there. That's the top. Just drag a ledge across like that. A bit grey, and you've got some windows in here. Some windows in here. And you've got a window in there as well, but I'll darken that down a little bit more. And then you've got an arched window in that side. I think that's a doorway at the bottom, and then a long window up there. I'm just going to lighten that side up a little bit, because it's just a bit darker, so I'm just going to put a bit more light into that right hand edge. I keep saying I'm putting more light in there. Keep picking up the wrong colour. There you go. A little bit more light in around that edge there, just to show that is light aiming that way. A little touch more, just that's it, get a clean line. Lighten the top edge. A little bit of light into the windows. You've got a light window just going around the corner, and then you've got another one just down there. And then just drag a little bit of sense of interior into that doorway. Don't make the door, I'm going to darken it down the right hand side a bit, but not black. I'm just mixing a bit of burnt sienna and black. So I don't want that to be a gigantic black hole in the centre there. Janet, what sort of brush are you using? Actually, it's just a cheap brush, Janet. It's a Pro Art brush. Just a Pro Art 007. Just a cheap Proline. I find that these are better for using for your acrylics or oils, because the watercolour brushes tend to be just a bit too soft. So I've got this brush, which is longish. I don't know if you can see, it's quite longish. And like I said, what I'd do is you can scrape the paint off the side while you're doing it and just use the point. So I wouldn't use an expensive brush. You know, I mean, this sec. I've got this one for detail, but it doesn't work very well. So that's a detailed one. That's a heavy bristle brush. So just a cheap brush. Just a cheap brush. I don't see why you need to get too expensive on them. Because to be quite honest, Janet, I go through these type of brushes. I always set off to clean them properly. I'm just going to darken that side down round the corner a little bit. and I'm going to put a little bit of shadow. I tend to go through brushes quite well. These type of brushes, once I've sort of used them a couple of times, I tend to just chuck them away. I'm putting a bit of shadow off that edge there onto this wall here, just a little, so it's casting a shadow onto that entrance just there. And just a little line down there. So that pushes that brush out. So we're moving along. I'm going to put a little bit of light in them windows. And like I said, I don't actually clean the brush in between. I tend to just dip into lights, darks, etc. and just touch them in. So I'm just going to add a little touch of light just into them windows. Just to give it a feeling of some light into them windows. And then this buttress that comes down, a bit of yellow ochre, a bit of white. I'm just going to spray it with a bit of water here because just spray it with a bit of water because it's starting to get sticky. And like I said, a soup works well. So I just want to add a little bit more light across the top of there to define that edge, just to fetch it forward a little bit. I don't want them, I want these, that's lighter down there like that. These have got to look as though they're forward of that background. Just goes around the corner and then it gets dark. This is a darker corner just down here. Got the light there. A little bit of light just in that side of the arch there. And then you've got this buttress just coming down here, just to the left hand side of the window, of the door entrance. It's like a light buttress just there. Just going to add a bit of light into them there. I want a bit more light into them. Not to make them too detailed, but just to make them lift out a little bit. So I'm going to leave that and go up to here and get along here and then come down, because this is more in shadow, but it just needs a little bit of darkening. I'm just going to darken the side of there because that's a bit more darker than that. That's sort of turned the corner just there. In fact, it wants to be really dark, that bit. That's better. If I think it's too dark, I'll tone it down afterward. But that wants to feel as though it's just lifted round the corner of this down there. And it'll cast a bit of shadow. Got them steps. I'm just going to put them steps in a little bit. Right. So what you want now is combinations of burnt sienna, yellow ochre and black, just to create this shadowy background. So like I said, I'll just spray that into the burnt sienna yellow ochre. You don't want it to be soaking wet. You just want it to be, like I say, a soup, so that you can just pull in and lift darks out and lights out at your leisure. Bit of yellow ochre in there. So I want to break this down into sections. So there's a little section just down there like that. That's in shadow. And then you've got a turret up. Oh, you've got these going across the back. In fact, there's a light. It's starting to get too much detail. So that's lighter, that wall there. I'm just lightening it up a bit more. I don't want to get down, and I can't help it. The problem is with this photograph, I'm seeing that much stuff that I feel as though I need to paint it in. And normally I've done Bambara loads of times. I just do a suggestion of it all, but because there's a lot of it here, I feel as though I'm having to put more into it. I'm gonna slim it down a bit because I do feel as though I'm getting too much in. All these towers, etc. There's a one just in front of there. So you've got that coming down there. You've got this is the one we painted in like that. Just lighten it up a little bit at the top and then tone it down. And then just behind it is a little turreted tower, which just comes behind it. Like that. Just get a bit yellow ochre because that's just a bit too bright. Light's jumping out too much, so I'm just toning that down by just painting up to it, underneath it, and up to it, and just leaving that little hint of light showing. And then I'm just going to darken that down on the left hand side so it's not so bright. There's a little bit of light onto that one just up there in front of it. And that light comes down there. This is like a lot of detail into this. Just toning that down a bit because it's just jumping out too much. It's like painting Durham Cathedral. A little bit more light on that tower there. I'm just going to put a little bit of real light just across the top to separate it from them buildings back there, that area back there. I'm just going to put a light across there. And pull it down. So it comes down here and then goes along here, just going away from, that's all wall just behind, and this is, everything is stepped individually in front of it. So this is a wall in front of that. So what I'm going to do is just darken that wall just down behind. And that goes along there and steps up to them three castellations that you can see just along there. And that comes down there. So that's just darker, stepped up, and then we'll put the light bit back in front of it. What you've got, I'll tell you what's probably easier if I block in the sections. So just under there, just at the end of here, you've got a tower catching the light. So there's a wall here, there's a tower here. I'm just going to block it in so that you can see there's a little tower just underneath it. And there's a wall down here like that. A light tower just behind this, but in front of that. Like that, and that comes down to here. There's going to be 16 million walls on this. Right. Just touching in across there, and a little bit of light across the top of that. This is like a standing out turreted area. Just drag that in a bit. Excuse me. All I'm doing here is just trying to define these walls without actually having to paint too much in. What was I going to do there? I was going to do, I'm just going to darken down this side of this tower. So I'm just pulling some, this is burnt sienna with black in, so it's not too strong. It's sort of a wet black with burnt sienna in. And that wall going along there has just a sort of a sense of castellations in just there, like that, coming up to this one. Then it's got a top to it like that. It's got a turn bit like that. It's got a window in there. I'll make the windows a bit darker just so they stand out. Got a window just in there. That has a little window just up there. There's a gap behind there, and there's a little window in that front turret that's just in front of that. And a line across there. Darken it the corner. Like I said, this is a marathon, this one. So if you can't stay around for everything, don't worry about it. I'll not do the video until I've got it all done, and then I'll edit it all and send it up. Just a few little flicks here and there just to suggest bits of brickwork in the background there. And then darken down to the left hand side of that turret there. It's sort of a companion from that one to that one. And then there's a wall goes down and along. Up to here. And then there's darker little bits of brickwork, etc. here. There's a gap in there. I'm blocking it in so I can see where I'm at, and then I'll come back into it for the finer detail. So you've got that shadowy edge there. I'm put them in dark so that I can see where I want to be. You've got that wall going along there, and then you've got an area coming out here, and you've got a little bit coming up there. And then you've got another wall coming along there. And then you've got this one here. And that one comes out to the edge. And then you've got this little turret, either chimney or something, just into there. Right, I'm just blocking that in now, and then I'll come along, tone them down. So just there, you have a tower just here. So it's just a corner, so it's just a corner off that, and it's down there like that, coming down to the sort of where the sand dunes start, like that, coming down there, just there. A bit of shadow coming up along the dunes, and then there's some lighter patches, so that's coming up there. There's an arch, and it's behind this, just in that wall there, there's a dark arch. So just behind that, behind this turreted thing, there's an archway through there. I'm just putting lines into so I can see where I want to be. That comes along there like that. Darkens down that edge. That's all right. Just getting established where I want things to be, and then there's a plethora. That's a word. A plethora of windows in there, 3 or 4 actually, and then a gap and a couple. And then this is sort of a turreted area. So there's a one just in there, a longish one just there. There's a suggestion of something just there. This comes down. I tell you what, she makes a racket, that girl, when she gets working down there. That's it. So now I can go along with some lights in here and lighten parts up and darken parts up. So I've established that it's going around the corner. Now from there you then have that wall there, and that's just really just going out of sight. So is this. These are just starting to go round the corner a little bit. Right. I want not a bright light at the moment, just in between. So in between the dark, so a bit of yellow ochre mixed in with the burnt sienna, etc. So we can create a sense of shadow and light into places. So that wants to be there. I'm going to put just a real feeling of some lighter bits in parts. A bit more light into it. That there is just slightly sticking out from that wall there, so it's just ever so slightly sticking out. There's a little bit of a light ledge goes across there. And that's lighter brickwork altogether. I don't know what, you've got this area here. I'll just get these done. It sort of looks like some kind of angular bit just there. Got that. I'm just going to put a little bit of light around that top of that arch. A bit of light into there. This is another sort of turreted edge coming out, so it's sticking out just there, and they've got another arched doorway in there, and this all looks like as though it's, I don't know whether it's been renovated or it's a bit more worn, but it's all a bit more lighter brickwork just there. But I'm going to tone it down because I don't want it to be jumping out too much, so I'm actually going to tone this down a bit so that it's not as bright as what it is on that photograph, because I think it would just blurring into it a little bit. Put a bit more light into that so that nothing is too bright. And it sort of turns the corner. There's that dark part that there goes along there light like that, and then you've got that little sense of a turret in the middle, castellation, and then you've got the lighter bit of this, and then you've got some kind of weird angles. I'm just going to put them in very lightly because I don't want them to jump out. A little bit of lighter brickwork here and there. Right, we need to lighten up this back wall in places so that it doesn't become too dull. You're still with me? We'll get on to more exciting things once I've got this established. Quite a lot of sort of broken, a whole different area here, which makes me wonder what it actually, whether it was something added or they've renovated it. It's sort of a lighter area just sticking out from that wall there, just a lighter area. And you've got an arch in there as well. I'm going to lighten some of this up with just a bit of yellow ochre. Not that I want it bright light, but I feel as though it's maybe just too dark, so I'm just dragging in, doing a few dots here and there, just dragging my finger over it so that it just breaks it up a little bit. Just little touches. So just get these lighter bits, then I'll put these doorways in, etc., and we should really be finished with that area there. Just going to get a little bit of light around these windows so they're not just black. So just a little bit of light across the top of them and around the outside edges. There's a few there. Right. Just make that arch there just a little bit more longer. And then we come down to this area here, so we're coming in front of that. Now, a bit of burnt sienna, bit of black, and this tower here comes down the side, so that's the side of it, and then it sort of steps in a bit, and then you've got castellations just going behind it, and that sort of steps in and then steps out again to that buttress that's just there. So you've got that buttress there, and just drag a sense of shadow off it onto the other wall. There's some red brickwork in there, but I'm not going to go down into that too much. I will tone the brickwork down. I'll add a bit of burnt sienna yellow ochre, and this lighter patch I will add a little bit into it to create a bit of texture. There's some red brick in here and there, and there's a little line across there, and then there's a castellation in there. And I'll just drag from that buttress a bit more shadow out, and I'm just going to drag in some brickwork here and there like that up to this lighter area over here. Pull it out so you've got this lighter area over here, and I'm just going to rub it in with my finger, and if it doesn't get too much, I'm just going to get a little bit of yellow ochre and white and just break it up in a few spots so that it's not too bitty. We've done this on watercolours where we've painted bricks in and then dragged through them to break them up, because you don't want anything too detailed. A little bit of light across the top of that. Just a little bit of light just across the top. A couple of little touches here and there. A little bit of light into that side, that's sort of the right hand side of that, and then just a little bit of light across the top of that. And that comes along there, goes along there. And down here you've got more lighter brickwork here and there. Just toning that down a bit, that black, I don't think it's just a bit too much. So you've got lighter brickwork in there. I'm going to lighten the side of that buttress up a bit. So it just catches the eye a bit. And just drag into that shadow, so that shadow isn't as prominent. And a little bit more light. I feel this side of this needs to be a bit lighter. This is sort of going in 1, 2, 3 sort of stages. I just feel it needs to be a bit lighter to stand out. That's better, that'll do. Right, so we've got a couple of windows in there, a little bit of burnt sienna black. So you've got, I'm saying windows, they basically slits for chucking arrows out, I would think. Fight off the southern tourists. Put that into there. And then you've got a doorway. I think it's a doorway. It's lower down than that one, so don't put it too high up. Put it in strong and then I'll tone it down. A few little angles across there. Maybe goes up just a little bit farther into there. Now in front of that you have a wall, so a bit of burnt sienna yellow ochre, and you've got this wall that sort of comes just below that. There's a bit of grass in there, we'll put it in after. There's a wall going along here like that, and that curves in front of that along there. And it just sort of comes to an end at an angle like that. Bit of darker black because it has a strong shadow just down there onto the grasses. So there's just a little angle of shadow just onto there. And then there's another wall. This long wall rises up from down there and comes along here. I'm just getting the wall established so I know where I'm at, and then I'll just finish off that little bit. And it curves around there like that. Curves around there like that and goes across here and over to here. So I've got that. Want to darken that archway down a little bit. Oops. Picked up a big piece of paint. Just darken that down a fraction into there. Darken that. Now that there comes down, and that's going to be sort of parts of your grass banks coming down. So I'm just putting it in darker so I can see where I am with that, and a darker edge along here. Across the top of that wall, and across the top of that wall it just gets lighter over to there. And then we need the grass in. I'll just get a slightly bigger brush. Right, where's that? Yeah, I've just got a slightly bigger brush. I'm just going to mix a bit of yellow, blue and black. So I'm mixing cadmium yellow. No, I'm not. I haven't got any cadmium yellow out. I'll just drop the cadmium yellow. I'll just squeeze some cadmium yellow out. I want to establish where that green bit is. Just a little bit out. And I've got blue, cobalt blue, and some black. So it's going to be a combination of them. I want it to be lighter because it wants to feel lighter, so I'm not putting much black at all into that, just the yellow and the blue. and I just want that a bit more yellow in actually. I might add a little bit of white so it's just a little touch of white so it just does stand out a bit. And what you've got in front of there is the green. And that green grass comes across there in front of that wall, down the edge of that wall. I think a bit of yellow ochre and white into it. So a little bit of yellow ochre and white into it so it's not so bright. And push that down. Push that greenery down into here. And it sort of rises up to this sort of edge here. So it sort of rises up there like that. Across there. Into there. And then it's a darker bit of green, so use a little bit of the black in with the yellow and blue. And from there you have a darker patch of greenery coming out down here like this. It's part wall, part foliage, and that comes along there like that. Up to that edge. And actually in there, which I've missed out, so you want some, just change back to, oh, I've gone to my finer brush. Just change back. I haven't gone to my finer brush. Where's my finer brush gone? Yeah, I have, right. So you want some black and brown. Sorry, I'm just talking to myself. And you've got some slits in here. You've got one in there actually. You've got one there, one down there, one there, and another one just there. I'll just darken. That looks like an arched entrance just there, that one. So you've got that green. I'll just mess it up a bit so it's not too, just dabbing little bits of yellow in. I don't want it to be too punchy, so I'm just breaking it down a little bit. Sort of leveling it out across there. And that goes across the front of this area here. Like that. And it's darker just there. So you put it in darker, comes across the land, across here. And I'm going to need a bigger brush. I need a bigger brush in a second. Just blending that in. I'm just trying to establish where I am really, where I am with this so-called castle. I'm just going to get a little bit of a bigger brush so that I can get a bit more covered. And I'm using, like I said, the soap. I'm using yellow, blue, black, yellow ochre, burnt sienna, anything. And I'm just trying to dull off the greenery. So that it's not, I don't want it to be bright green and bright yellow. So I'm just dulling it into the background a little bit, just above that dark line we put in. Just break it up, let some light show through, some little bits of light show through, and some just blot it out. And you're taking that down across here, and we'll come down into all this foliage in a second. And now you just need a little bit of grey. So Burnt sienna and black with a little bit of white in, and you need this wall greyed off a bit. It's just too bright. It's just too bright. A little bit more light into it. I find that just a bit too dark. It's just taking over, so I'm just fetching the... Picked up some green there. I'm just fetching this wall darker out to here. Across a bit, and I'm just lightening that wall up a bit. Just a bit too strong. And then fetching that out across here and round, and it wants to be lighter now, like going back to your yellow ochre and white area, and it wants to be lighter just here. And there's a little turreted area just there. And down, and I need to lose that. Got that too high up. That white patch there is just too high up, so I'm just dulling that down. I'm just blending. So the last thing you want is something to be, I know it looks lighter on the photograph. I don't know if you can see the photograph. The sort of the grasses look brighter, but this looks brighter up here, but I don't want it to be that bright. And I'm just going to tone that down with just dull yellow ochre and white, so that it isn't as bright as what it was. So I'm just, and this is sort of the corner wall down here into the cliff edge, so that comes down like that. In fact, it wants to be farther over here. Wants to be farther over here. And that comes down like that, and then there's a few bits of cliff or broken wall just there into there. I'm just going to pick out a little bit of light across the top of this wall here. Sort of like curving back. Sort of comes out in like a circle and then curves back on and goes round and up. It's sort of going away from you, up to the top of there, and then dropping down that side, and that's the other wall just there, like that. Every now and then I just see a little bit I want to alter. That's probably too bright. I'll just tone it down. Right, so what you've got here now is wall, just a little bit of wall. So I'm just dragging a little bit of broken stonework into it. And this is the wall going up and around and away and gradually going up there like that. And then down here you've got cliff. And I'm obviously going to have to lower this sea level down a bit because I've got a lot of cliff to get in. And this is cliff. So all I'm doing really is just dragging broken texture down here and leaving little bits of dark in, so then sharpen up edges. So just creating a cliff edge just down here. And there's grasses coming down through there. I'll lighten these tops up in a second. I'm just going to raise this up a bit because I'm starting to have to crouch down. So I'm just going to raise the canvas up a bit using my special canvas razor rubber. If I can actually get it there. That's lowering it down, so I'm just raising it up. Just so I can get into that area there. without having to bend down. I'll come back out to it afterwards. Right, so like I said, we've got this is the sort of the top of the broken area just here. I'm putting it a little bit stronger so that you can see it defined at the edge like that. A few little bits of broken stomach and a few little edges just coming out like that, and then it sort of edges up and there's a little bit of a tower just there. And then you've got grasswork, so I'm just going to put a bit of greenery in here which comes down in front of that. So I'm just putting a little bit of green. This is just blue and yellow and bits of black, and that goes along that edge there and comes down in front of that wall like that. So that's a bit of greenery that comes down there like that. Want some darker spots for little bits of broken, so I'm using burnt sienna black and just creating some darker stonework here and there. Just it's the sort of the crevices of the brickwork. So you can see some lighter, darker bits just here and there. This is the cliff, sort of in amongst the grasses coming down here. And then round to this side here, it's really darker because it's coming out, it's catching the light there, it's turning round into the level there, catching the light a bit here, and then going darker in as it turns round into the shadows a bit. So it's a bit darker just there, like that. A few darker bits. Don't try and paint every brickwork in, just establish basically a set of lights and darks. And add a bit of dark to your green so it's not too bright, and just suggest the darker edges just under the wall, just there, going up the bank, and a few darks coming out like that. A few darker patches. There's light and dark in all this. It's like just sections where the grasses have grown over part of the cliff edge. So you've got darker areas and lighter areas. So that's the cliff edge, and then just here you have like darker greenery coming out, and it sort of rises up to there. You don't have to do too much, just sort of suggest where it's at, otherwise you'll have too much of a pattern. So I'm just sort of gradually just dulling into these grasses here, just with a soft brush and going over them so they just vanish into there. And then that dark would come across there and down into here. This is about the level of where your dunes are going to be, where your grass dunes are going to come in. So that wants to go along there like that. Right, I'll just detail the cliff edge, and then we'll paint in the grasses of the castle. So I'm going to put in some lighter parts using, just clean my brush a bit because I like a clean brush. Using some yellow ochre with a little bit of white in, so it's just lighter, and just create some light patches of brickwork here and there, of cliff edge really, just dotting in some patches in amongst the lights. Lighten that brickwork just up a little bit more. Bit more yellow ochre into that, and as you're coming around the corner it catches the light again just here, so it just wants a few more lighter bricks, lighter cliff edges just down here and here. Down the jewel, and then some white, more white added. I've got a bigger brush. I'm not using the dead fine brush here. I'm just blobbing in some white a bit. I'm going to make the wall just a little bit lighter across that edge there a bit. Just touching in some odd lights here and there, just to to make the cliff stand out. If you get too bright, all you do is just dip into it with a slightly bit more colour on and just, don't know whether that's a window cleaner or what. It can't be a window cleaner. Somebody making a racket outside. Here comes the boss.
Sneaking.
You what?
I'm sneaking.
You're sneaking? They can hear you. Lynn's in the room, everybody.
Hi.
Right, so you suggest a cliff. You don't have to paint every bit of it in. Now you need to lighten. I'm still using a bigger brush. I'm in me soup still. In me soup. With a bit of yellow into the greenery, and I'm just going to create some lighter edges, a bit more brighter, just a little bit more yellow in it. I want it just to be brighter, but I don't want it to be bouncing out. So just a few lighter areas in here and there, just to pull some bits of grass through. So it's very subtle. I'm just sort of dragging through, not making anything too garish. And now just in certain parts add a little bit more yellow in with some white, and just here and there just a little nuance of light coming down from the edge down here, and there's more nuance, more light just coming down that side over there, like that. Just if you think the black or whatever is jumping out too much, just nuance it. Just dab into it so it's not too bright. Right, I'm going to pull these in down here. Can you see across there? Yes, you can. I'm just going to pull the light down. I might have to move the easel across because I'm too far over to the left of it. Right, again, I'm still using a bigger brush. It's not massive. It's sort of this size, and I'm just mixing little bits of colour into it. So you've got this cliff edge coming down here, and that comes down. Now, when I finished last week, was it last week? Yeah, when I finished, I blotted because I had this too high, so I just pulled some blue over it a bit, so that it wasn't as strong, it wasn't as high up, and I want this bit to come down to be about level with this cliff edge here. So I want to lose that dark patch there. I could use a bigger brush, but I'd have to clean it then. A sense of light coming off this edge here. Shadow over that side, but a sense of light just coming off here, and I'm just dragging over, sort of dusting into it, so that it doesn't become too. I don't want to have to paint in lots of detail. I just want to drag in and create a sense of texture, and that gets just darker slightly just down here. Little bits of dark here and there, so you can just sort of create little suggestions of darker edges. Don't make them too strong. And then just a little bit of lighter colour. Just a little bit of lighter colour just along the top edge as a fraction. Especially this leading edge here that's coming off the windmill area. That wants to feel as though it's in front of all that. And that's fine. So now I'm going to just start dragging in the grasses for the dunes across there. So I'm going to get rid of the smaller brushes. I don't think I need to do anything else with that castle at the moment. I'll just lower the canvas a bit so you can see the whole thing. Ground floor, right. What I'm going to do now is put the sand dunes in, and they need to go right across the picture. I think I'm virtually finished with that. They need to go across the picture. I've got another one here, another photograph she sent, which is more distant. There's family here, but they want the dogs in, which the sand dunes are coming across. So I've got the sand dunes to come in across there. I'm going to get a bigger brush and sort of daub them in a fraction. So I've got here a brush. It's about an inch across, bristly type brush. And I want the sand dunes. They want to be green in amongst it. So what I'm going to do is just drag some green down and then actually pull sand dunes down into it, because you want the greens along the bottom a bit before the beach, and then you want sense of the lighter grass just in top of it. So I'm mixing a little bit of yellow and black more than anything, and I'm just going to pull down. So that's going to be the sand dunes are going to go across there, so I'm just pulling down a little bit of darker grasses in there. Just blend them along a bit. Don't worry, they won't be left as dark as that. And that wants to just go along here and down here, and that just wants dragging down a bit darker just over there. And that's going to go along there, but we've got another dune just coming in front of it, like that. So same colouring, black and yellow, and just create a darker patch across here. This is going to be another sand dune, just because there's layers of them. So this is just going to be in here, in front of that one. And that dark there will vanish just behind here, and then we'll put the light in. So that one's going to come out like that. Little bits of sand. Oh, look at all them people. Got loads of people stood. I'll just move the camera over to the right a bit, if I can figure out how to do that. So that you can see the whole area. That's it, so you can see that area there. Just clean this brush, and then we need to build up little bits of sand dune. So what you want is you want yellow ochre into that yellow, bit of yellow ochre into that yellow, and a little bit of white into it, and just dab in above the black. You daub it into the black. It's probably a bit heavy, that. I don't want it to be too heavy. Daub it down into the black a little bit, so the black doesn't jump out as much. Take that back there, across there. Do the same over here, just dragging in some little bits of yellow ochre and yellow, just slight angle in. Just need to fetch that down a bit, that area there. Take that just across. When I finish with this, I'll put a nice clean sandy edge into that. So what I want now is yellow and white. I'll just get a bit more yellow out. I want yellow and white with just a little bit of ochre in to get the sort of the grasses into there. And I'll block it in, and then I can always go back. I can always go back and detail a little bit. So I've sort of yellow and white, and I'm just going to go across the top of where the dunes are going to be, like that. This is where sort of the dunes are just coming down in front of the wall. If they're too bright, I can tone them down. Just putting them in might be too yellowy. So that goes across there like that on a slight sort of sliding angle down. Put some green across the top, some shadows across the top. Goes into there, and it's quite bright on the one that's in front of it. So all I'm doing is blocking. What I'll have to do as well is go around the corner afterwards, because if this, I think they just want this as a canvas, so the edges will have to be painted. So I'm just sort of suggesting these dunes. I'm going to tone them down because it is a bit bright, that a bit yellowy, but if you can paint so much of it in, and then you can go over with paler colours. Just get a bit more white into it. It's just a bit too bright there, and just sort of dabbing in these grasses. Sort of pull them at a slight angle a little bit. This is the grasses, so we will be putting darker bits into this. So this is the grasses. It's not like the actual sand. So we will darken with some greens underneath. All I'm trying to do is just build a layer up, and that'll go along here and round the corner of the castle. Right, I'm just going to get a slightly smaller brush so that I'm not painting too big with it, and mix sort of a green in again with a little bit of black and yellow. Use black because otherwise blue and yellow is just too bright, and just go along underneath a bit stronger, a bit more black in. Just go along underneath and just drag some sense of grasses just coming out from underneath there. I will tone them down because they do look a bit bright to me, them grasses, but I'm just going to establish where it's going first. And get them in. I'm just going to go up into them a little bit so there's not too much bright. So I'll mix a bit of yellow and black. I'm just going up into them. Just with a smaller brush, just to tone them down. Everything was just looking a bit too gaudy, too bright. And then I can touch them up afterwards. It's a combination of black and yellow, and just adding the odd little bit of black and yellow just underneath, and pushing some of it up into the dune. That's better. I'm just toning these yellows down because I will add some highlights in there, but I just feel that they were just a bit too strong. They were bouncing out. Castle looks at me. Thank you, Jennifer. Yeah, I'm pleased with the castle. I think it looks fine. I've just got to build up the dunes and the sand, and obviously get the water in. The boats will be fine. I won't be over detailing the boats. I'll be putting them in nice, but I won't be over detailing them. At the moment, I'm just aware that that's just a bit too bright. It's just jumping out too much. I want the sea and the sand to be the brightest part. So that's why I've decided just to dull this down. These are just cheap brushes, these. I've got loads of them in the gallery that I just use probably once or twice, and then they just vanish. So I'm just scrumbling in, really. I will come back into this and paint the dunes in just that bit better, but I definitely wanted to dull that down, even across there. You can touch a bit of yellow ochre and white, and you can touch little bits of light across tops of edges here and there like that, just dabbing in a few lighter edges, just where there's a little sense of the grasses growing. And then you're going to darken underneath, and then put the beach in. Looks like a set of figures walking across there. I'm going to darken the beach, lighten the beach, and allow that to dry before I can go in there and paint some darker bits of grasses, etc. I've just blocked it out really and blended some of it up into the thing, into the castle, just leaving some highlights here and there, as though there's actually some buildings when you get farther over here, but just gradually toning it down. So there's no great sort of thing standing out. It just wants to be blended in a little bit, so you've got a sense of little bits of light here and there, but not too dark and not too light. And then I will pick them out. So to get where the sand's going to be, I just need to get a bigger brush, and I need to get a better mix than I could use if I was doing this more modern. I could use a palette knife and just pull down from it. It might be too strong for the rest of the picture. I'll not use a knife. I'll just use a bigger brush. So I'm using this, and this is about 2 inches across, and I'm going to sort of put the beach in, and I'm going to just pull it down to create the beach again, and then the water will come in afterwards. So I just need to get my yellow ochre and white onto a separate area from where it is at the moment. So I'm just going to pick up the white, put it over here, pick up some yellow ochre, mix it in a bit. Now, what you want is, you don't want it dead thick like that. You want to sort of spread it out on your palette so that you're not too thick. Now you can paint detail in between. You can sharpen it up because you obviously want some sand drifting up into the dunes. But this is the beach. Just curving a bit too much there. Just lift that up a fraction. What you can do is, while you're on, you can just drag some angled bits up like that to suggest the dunes. Just with the side of the brush, just drag it up into the grasses a little bit to suggest where the dunes are going to be. That makes it easy to be. You can do the same with this when you get. So I've just pulled that in like that. I will go in later when it's dry, and I'm just dragging the brush quite loose over this. I'm going to drag it harder into there, and I'm going to afterwards I'm going to fetch a bit of water in through here, but I can't do it while it's wet. I'm just going to do this same thing over here. So down there, do the same principle, side of the edge a bit, and just drag up or into it and drag down in a few angles. So you're just creating broken sandbanks in there. Thank you, Linda. And then just blend that out, just pulling the brush down very lightly. I'll put more colour into this. I've just wanted to get them sandbanks to look more like sandbanks. And I'm going to add more water into that. So now I can get a little bit of the blue. Get a little bit of the blue. So you've created the where the sand is, and you've left it slightly toned down to make it look as though it's a wetter sand. Do you know what I mean? Well, I've got blue there. I'm just going to mix a little bit of French ultramarine in with that mix. Not much. Not French ultramarine, sorry, cobalt. Just mixing a little bit of cobalt in. So can you see it on the edge of the brush? Just a little bit of cobalt. And just pulling that through into the sand with downward strokes, and just creating a little sense. Whoops, got some black on there. Just creating a little sense of water. In fact, I suppose if you put the water, wait a second, I'll just put the water to come in a bit more, just get a bit more blue. I'll soon alter it. If I fetch the blue in here, I've got the white and the yellow ochre in, so if I fetch the blue in across there a little bit, it needs to be toned down. Just too bright, that. Just get the yellow ochre and the white a bit. Just tone it down. I don't want it to be too bright. That's better. And you blend it in while that first bit is wet still. Just blend it in with a few downward strokes and just creating a sense of wetness. If that was really wet, I could put a slight reflection down into it. I'll have to decide on that, because I don't want to put a hard reflection in down off that if it's going to alter the sense of the scale of the picture. But I'm just trying to create the sense that some of the water is coming in wetter. Just pulling down over it, just to sort of start, put a bit up here. You get so much in, you don't want it filled in with blue all over, but you get so much in that then when it's dry, you can go into the edges with some sandy paint. I'm just going to take that through there. I don't know if you can see that, just taking it through there and getting a definite edge, which I'll have to take back over to the sea when I paint the sea in. Oh, that's seaweed that we put in. A little bit white and yellow ochre. Need a bit more paint on. More paint on there, and these will be bits of rocks coming in from the side, but we're getting there. And now the castle, as it's going away, it's going round, it's not coming out straight, it's turning the corner, so you sort of rise up a little bit. I need to put more bankside down there. I'll move over with the canvas when I come to do that. I think my brushes are all gouged up a little bit now, and like I say, a second. Again, just drag up into the grasses a few little feelings of dunes moving up there. You can put some figures. I might put some. I mean, she hasn't asked for any figures in. I don't think she has. I'll have to check with our Lynn. But it might be to put a couple of little figures in the distance, which gives that sense of scale. At the moment, I'm just trying to get this. I'll have to paint the sea in properly afterwards, but I'm quite happy with that. Just a few little touches just over the top. Got to be careful that you just don't do too much. I think I like the idea of the sand coming down there in the dunes. I'm probably going to make this darker just here. I can't go any farther that way. Well, they can see the edge of the canvas there. Could just be there. It is a lovely place. It is a really nice place. I'm just darkening down this, probably a bit more black into it, because I want, there's quite a few little bits of stones and rocks down here, so I'm just darkening underneath and just fetching it out, because if we put a few rocks in here as well, it'll give a sense of scale to it. So just darkening into there, and like I say, at some point I will have to go in with more detail. So I think that's looking fine there. Let's have a look. Use my new super duper thing. I don't think I can zoom out anywhere from this camera. I can a little bit. There you go. I've probably got too much curve round here. That's also an effect by this camera, because the camera is a wide angle lens, so it's exaggerating the curve away, if you know what I mean. Yeah, it is. But I will fetch this beach out after, when this is wet. Out more beach just here, then sea, so that I can stagger the beach, the dunes back a bit in a level way rather than a curved way. So I'll try and show you. I'll just get another brush, just This is probably going to be too heavy, but I'll just try and show you what I mean. So a little bit of blue and white. So that would be the sea coming along like there, like the water just sort of coming in and blending into the beach a little bit. Just edges, it comes in like edges like that. So you would take it across here like that, and then you would lift it up. You would lift it up and stagger it in. I'll tone it all down, I'm just blotting it in harder so you can see. So you would take it across like that. You would then actually raise it up a fraction more just there. A fraction more just there. This is quite strong, I will tone it down and stagger that up there. So that instead of being a curve, it's going away in sort of dunes, etc. So I'll just fill this down into here. And then we'll, on Thursday, we will, Friday, sorry, we will put the sea in properly, finish the dunes off, and then get on with the boats, etc. So that's all I've done, just try to create it in sort of staggered areas of beach, because when this water comes in and goes out, it generally leaves a sort of a stream because of the low-lying part of it. It tends to leave a stream. So that's just blocked in, so don't worry about that. I will tidy all that up. And we've obviously got little bits of grasses and build up the dunes along here. Yeah, so we've got the beach in there like that. The boats are going to go in, the sea's going to go in there, and we obviously need waves, etc., and ripples. Not waves so much, but a sense of ripples into the water, just coming in pools and leaving like banks of sand here and there. So that's how we want it. I'll have to tone them down a bit. I just want the sea to be higher up so that the castle feels as though it's going round the corner and away, whereas before it felt like curved. So now what I've done is just stagger it, if you see, lighten up some of the beach in a minute, or in a section. It's too I've got too much wetness around, too much paint around, and as you're getting farther out, just blur that. Just blur it into it. You can add a fraction afterwards, but you want the land and the sea to be blurred where they're meeting, so that they do feel distant. So that's just a bit of a kerfuffle, that, but you can see how I've made the castle go round. I don't know what it looks like on the other. I don't think you can get in close enough on that if I turn it. I'll just see if I can zoom in. I think it's just too far out actually. Wait a second. Right, let's zoom in. Slightly out of focus. See if I can alter the focus a bit. Yeah, I can't really get that well focused on that. Bit by bit I'll move this camera out that we use. This is the camera we're using for the close-ups here, and bit by bit I'll move that. As we get nearer, I'll move that out. So that's all right. I think that's about as far as I can go on this at the moment. I want to let this dry, and then I'm going to, on Thursday, I'm going to paint the sea in, paint the beach in properly, tidy up some edges up here on the dunes, etc., and create some little sandbanks here and there, and then just fill it in. So the curve just looks a bit more unnatural because of the closeness of the camera, whereas in actual fact when you step back off it, it's a bit flatter. Thank you, Facebook user. It could be anybody of you, it could be any one of you, I don't know. Yeah, so I think we found the castle. I want the boats to be excuse me, I swallowed wrong there. I've obviously got little bits of detail to sharpen up parts of the land. I don't want it to be too dull. I want to pick out some lights onto the dunes. Boats, water, 3 dogs. There's the dogs, you kind of see them. The dogs are just out of sight. And obviously picking out, I'll zoom back. I am zoomed out. Picking back detail, and the boats will go in strong. I want the boats to be not, wait a second, see if I can show you the boats. I'll use my new super duper gear. Oh, that's brilliant, that, isn't it? I love this technology. Whoa. It might be good technology, but it's starting to sag. The weight of the arm, I'll have to sort of balance it up a little bit. But yeah, that's going to be the boats and the what. I want them to be strong. I want the strength of worn out boats. I don't want, do I mean Friday? Yes, I mean Friday, Janet. I want the boats to be strong. A bit of detail in them, but not too. I'm going to just fix this up because the clamp is sort of swinging a bit, so I'll have to sort that out. It's all a work in progress. It's getting there. Progress is getting along a bit better. Yes, I meant Friday, Janet. So I think we'll probably leave it at that. So if that's all right for you, yeah, see, that's all right. I'll leave that till Friday, and we'll move along now. The castle was obviously the hardest part. It had a lot of work to get the castle done. The boats will not take that same amount of detail, and the dogs, I don't know. They won't. Nothing will take as long as the castle. So we'll get well on Friday. So if you're okay with that, I'll leave it there. And like I said, I'll do the video, but I want to edit the video because there's a lot of talk and there's going to be a lot of video. So I want to actually edit it, all the different lessons, then put it together as one video, and then you can get it. It's bright and sunny out there now. You could have come up. I know I didn't expect anyone today with the weather, but you're quite welcome to pop in if you want. I know obviously we can't have a crowd in, but if a couple want of you to come, I don't know when we allow fully to have crowds in, a crowd scene. But anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to clean my brushes and have some lunch and make sure I sort this out, because this here there, when I pulled it over to the side, what you do is you loosen this. I'll tell you what, I'm getting wrapped up. I'm getting wrapped up in my microphone. That's the problem. I've got my microphone round my collar, it's sort of turned inside out. I'll tell you what, I'm going to untangle myself. I'll see you on Friday. Well, I'll see you tomorrow night, some of you, but Friday for this. See you later. Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Janet. I'm going to switch off because I'm entangled in my microphone wire. And I'm switching off. I am going to switch off. Wait a second.